Hello and welcome to this introduction to how to create a graph in Java. A graph is defined as a set of nodes and edges. That's it. Now that raises the question of what is a node and what is an edge? And nodes and edges can represent some complex things. But for our purposes, all we need to know is that a node has some identifier. And so here in main, there's some code up here which we'll talk about in a little bit. Okay, and those are just some imports that I will need later on. But I create the class main, and then in my main method, I say hello world for fun, and then my very first line of code after that is to create a new node. And the only detail that I care about is an identifier that I basically choose at random, 1, 2, 3. And then I create another node whose identifier is 2, 3, 4. You'll notice that I have not told you what a node is other than a thing that has an identifier. And guess what? That is all that a node is. So let's look at the code for a node. It's so simple. The code for a node involves a constructor that takes an identifier and then stores that identifier into a local private field. We also have a toString method that prints that local field out. By the way, we could have written this toString method just by appending a blank string to an integer, but I did it this way in order to be a little bit more robust, a little bit more general. Now then, let's go back to main. Good news is, all these lines of code up to line 10, you can write yourself, given that I've shown you how to do node. The next line of code involves the creation of an edge. An edge is just a connection between two nodes, a start node and an end node. Since I've created two nodes already, I can create an edge by invoking a constructor for an edge and giving it those two nodes that I've already created. Now, once again, you may have a little anxiety. What is an edge? Well, I'll tell you what an edge is. An edge is a thing that is made from giving it two nodes, and we've already kind of defined that. So now we can look at the code for an edge. An edge has a constructor that takes two arguments, each of which is a node, and stores those two arguments into local private fields that represent those two nodes, and that's it. And then to print it out, we're going to print whatever it is that the toString method for the start node is, followed by an arrow, followed by whatever it is that the end node would print out when it got toString invoked. And that is everything that we need to describe an edge. Now that we have created nodes and edges, we're almost ready to create a graph, but we need to put our nodes and edges into sets. So the first thing that we do for that is to create sets. These two lines of code create a hash set of nodes and a hash set of edges, invoking the constructors for each of those. That's all. So therefore, my nodes is an empty set of nodes, and my edges is an empty set of edges. These next three lines of code add the two nodes to my nodes and the edge to my edges. Finally, we're ready to create a graph, because a graph is defined as a set of nodes and a set of edges. We've defined a set of nodes and a set of edges, so all we need to do is pass those two sets to the constructor for a graph. And once again, you may have anxiety about, well, what is a graph? And I'll tell you what a graph is. A graph is a thing which has a set of nodes and a set of edges. And so we know how to write the code for that, although it's a little more complicated. First of all, so we're going to talk about the specific graph class next time.